Alright y'all, one of the most important muscle groups for having an overall aesthetic physique is going to be your chest. But if you're struggling to grow your chest or you want to optimize your chest growth, you want to avoid these three worst chest exercises and instead do these alternatives. So before we begin, let's get into the different muscle groups in the chest. First, we have our upper chest, otherwise known as the clavicular head. And then we have our quote-unquote mid-chest, known as the sternal head. And lastly, we have our lower chest, known as the costal head of the pecs. Now, some people like to lump the mid and lower chest together as the sternocostal head, but for the sake of differentiating exercises, I personally prefer separating them out. But with that said, there isn't a fourth head of the chest, which brings me to the first worst exercise. And that first exercise is any inner chest focus bench press. In this case, I'm doing a hex press right now, but I would also include the landmine press to be lumped into this group of quote-unquote inner chest press, because the fact of the matter is, you can't really differentiate and bias specifically your inner chest. Now, I don't recommend these exercises for a couple reasons. First off, usually these inner chest focused bench presses limit your range of motion in the stretch part of the range of motion, which is the most important part for hypertrophy. And the second reason is you can't physically alter or change the origin of your chest. In fact, there is no muscle group known as the inner chest. Instead, you grow the inner chest by growing your overall chest. In other words, a bigger inner chest is just a bigger overall chest. Thus, you're better off doing some sort of bench press that actually allows you to get a good stretch, such as a dumbbell bench press, barbell bench press. And the stretch is very important because there is a growing body of evidence suggesting that training the muscle at longer lengths, so choosing exercises that allow you to get a good stretch on the muscle, is actually going to be better for hypertrophy. On top of that, the chest is a muscle that benefits from stretch mediated hypertrophy, meaning that's yet another reason to be choosing an exercise that allows you to get a deep stretch on the chest rather than something super short and focused like this exercise.
Now, some of you might be thinking, what if I'm doing the hex press in order to bias the triceps? Now, doing a triceps focused press can actually make sense, as I explained here in a previous video.
And this all starts with understanding the long head of the triceps, which is this inner part right here. Now, the long head is the only head of the triceps that crosses both the shoulder joint as well as the elbow joint. And because it crosses the shoulder joint, it is able to contract when we bring our arm down into shoulder extension, as well as stretch when we bring our arm up into shoulder flexion. The TLDR for this is when we're doing a press or a dip motion, we are stretching the long head at the shoulder joint because we're coming from down here to up here, right? We're bringing our arm up. But also at the same time, at the elbow joint now, we are contracting or shortening, meaning the long head isn't able to essentially sufficiently stretch or contract in order to meaningfully contribute into the exercise. So instead of going like this and actually, stretching and contracting, doing work, it's going like this. And by proxy, because the lateral and the medial head of the triceps doesn't cross the shoulder joint, it has no effect with whether we're moving our shoulder or not. And because it's not disadvantaged like the long head is, by proxy then, it becomes the one that gets biased.
Now, with that said, all you really need to do a triceps focused press is a shoulder width grip. So doing a regular close grip bench press at shoulder width is honestly a better option, since you're still able to get a better range of motion in that stretch position on your triceps as well, without any limitations that the hex press may have.
Also, real quick, if you guys are looking for affordable gym wear that's actually pretty high quality, I recommend you check out the clothing brand I'm always wearing, Able. Now, they released their men's line relatively recently, but I like to think of it as the price of Gymshark, if not slightly cheaper, but the quality of Alpha Leech. So definitely, if you're gonna check that out, use code PATH for 10% off. Let's get back to the video. Now, the second exercise on the list is gonna be a Dumbo Fly. Now, compared to, let's say, a cable fly or a pec deck fly, where we're actually able to get resistance going across the body, because we're limited by gravity on a free weight exercise, this Dumbo Fly is essentially a lengthened partial, where there's resistance down here, but as we straighten our arms, there's pretty much no resistance up here, and we can't cross our arms or anything like that, right? Now, you might be thinking, well, hey, if we're doing a lengthened partial, at least we're focusing on the more important part of the exercise, right? Well, the thing is, your chest inserts at the humerus, so your upper arm, not your hand. Now, this is important to consider because regardless of whether your hand is out here on a fly or tucked over here on a dumbbell bench press, you're really not getting any more of a stretch on your chest from your arm being out here compared to tucked in here like a bench press. Now, I'd argue that you're able to get an even deeper stretch using a dumbbell bench press compared to a dumbbell fly with less issues, because ultimately you're more tucked, you're in a more stable position, your wrists and elbows are stacked, so you can actually control the movement a little bit better, in my opinion. Thus, you can probably guess that the alternative that I'd recommend you do instead of a dumbbell fly is going to be a dumbbell bench press. Who would have thought?
Now, I'm not saying that all fly variations are pointless. I think something like a pec deck fly, where you can really exaggerate the stretch without worrying too much about balance or bailing on the exercise safely, and has resistance going across the body in the more shortened part of the ROM, unlike on a dumbbell fly that is valuable. Which brings me to the topic of the fly and the third exercise.
Now, the last exercise on this list is going to be a mid-chest focused cable fly with the cable set at shoulder height. Now, I don't think enough people talk about how unstable a cable fly can be, especially as you make more chest gains and you get stronger, which, let me tell you, will definitely be a problem that you run into if you consistently watch my content and or if you join my one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I pretty much take all the guesswork out of getting to your fitness goals so you can actually finally make progress towards developing the physique that you can actually be proud of and truly being confident in your own skin. So with that said, if you're interested, apply in the link in the description, but let's get back to the video. But anyways, when you're doing a cable fly with the cable set at shoulder height like this, you're gonna find that you're gonna be a little bit wobbly and the movement might actually even feel awkward because you're struggling to balance. So first thing you can do is take a staggered stance. With that said, what I really recommend on a mid-chest focused fly is upping the cables, setting them higher like this, and then what we're gonna do is take that staggered stance while also leaning forward, just so the arm path matches that of a mid-chest focused fly, not necessarily a lower chest focused one. You're gonna find that in this position, you're gonna be much more stable, especially as you approach failure. You can still get a really deep stretch like this and then come out here. Now, another thing I would recommend when you're doing a cable fly is, instead of just like doing it directly under the cables like this, if you take a step forward, you're gonna be able to get your arms way back here so you can get an even better stretch on your chest without running into any range of motion issues that you might have with the previous setup. And if you don't have a dedicated cable cross machine, you can still do the same thing on the faraway cables. So let's say you're using a set of faraway cables like this. Instead of just doing the fly and hunching over directly side by side from the cables, what you can do is take a couple steps forward, and in this position, you're actually able to get that deep stretch like we were doing before on the cable cross machine. So this is exactly how I would be doing a cable fly if all I had access to were a set of faraway cables. Just hope that your gym is not busy at all so you can actually do this. All right, guys, and those were the 3 worst chest exercises to avoid if you're trying to optimize for chest growth. Now, if you guys are doing any of those exercises, let me know down in the comments and let me know how you feel. What was your rationale with doing them? But with that said, please leave a like, support my page. It's the easiest way to do so, and it's completely free. And hit subscribe if you want to level up your physique. And don't you forget to hit the bell button. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.